Let me turn to Paul Bledsoe. He's the president of Bledsoe Associates, a firm that specializes in natural resources and climate change. Paul, welcome to the program.
Nice to see you again.
Clearly, there have been major achievements in China and successes, but there are still a couple of challenges like ground and air pollution.
Sure.
Why has this been so tough?
Well, obviously, this is a problem that has mounted over many, many decades, indeed centuries. And so China is attempting to address both climate change and air quality by reducing emissions, primarily from fossil fuels, from coal. And they've announced the closure of about 100 plants in just the last 18 months, which is very good news for the lungs of the Chinese people, but also cars. Huge explosion of cars in Chinese cities throughout the country, and that is causing air quality problems as well. So that's why China is investing in electric vehicles to try to decarbonize their electricity production system, then decarbonize their transportation system. So it will take both in the long run, but China's definitely moving in the right direction.
And why is it so important, especially now, Paul, that China should be moving in the right direction? Why is China's leadership role especially critical now?
So the Chinese Development Bank has already found that there are between $300 and $600 billion a year globally needed in clean energy investments. This is a massive market, arguably the largest market in the world. So it's in China's own economic interest to address these issues and to come up with the technologies. China has done great work in using green bonds, so-called climate bonds. They've issued over $22 billion in those bonds this year, about $38 billion last year. One thing it has to do better on, though, is China's also making some investments in unrestricted coal plants abroad and has been accused of exporting its carbon emissions and pollution. So I think it should adhere to a stricter international standard and only build coal plants that are super efficient.
Well, when you look at the United States, I mean, U.S. President Donald Trump really has not made environmental issues and fighting climate change a priority here. How much do you think that has really pushed China to be on the front line? And how does that make the United States look on such an important issue?
As on many other issues, American businesses are entirely ignoring Donald Trump's advice. No one is building new coal-fired power plants in the United States just because Donald Trump has a benighted view of the importance of climate change. On the other hand, China's has a huge opportunity given that this administration is not making the needed government investments in emissions reduction. So this is a big opportunity for China. The world leaders are going to meet again in Bonn just in 3 weeks for the annual climate negotiations. The biggest focus of those negotiations will be so-called climate finance. What are we doing to make investments in long-term green economy to prevent the worst of climate change?
Is the U.S. involved in these discussions?
They are not going to be a leader because Trump has said he'll no longer fund many of these issues. And so the U.S. has absurdly taken itself out of the game as a government. But our companies recognize that this is still the fastest growing, most important sector in the world. So that you have to distinguish between what Donald Trump says and what companies do. But the Chinese government has a huge opportunity.
All right, we'll leave it there. Paul Bledsoe, as always, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.